What's up, folks? Sweet Hallock here with a look at the new Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise Deluxe Class Arcee. First, as always, is the packaging. Arcee comes on a blister card like most Deluxe Class Transformers. The paper inserts in the bubble have Arcee's technical data on one side, and images of other toys in the wave on the bottom. The card back has the same red and white burst background as previous releases, with an Autobot emblem on the upper left, and an image of Arcee on the upper right. Around back we get Arcee's bio, and pics of her in robot and vehicle mode. Down below is an image of the characters as they appear on the Transformers Prime cartoon. Arcee comes packed in motorcycle mode, so that's where we'll start. She's mostly a pretty good representation of how she appears on the cartoon, mainly on the sides and front, where she's pretty flush. However, there are differences. Arcee is wider than on TV, but that's to be expected as this is a plastic toy without the size-changing ability of an actual Cybertronian, and is thus forgivable. She's a bit less flush up on top and from behind, as you can make out some of her arms if you look enough. But since this isn't the angle I'm typically viewing her at, it doesn't really bother me. Provided she's transformed correctly, Arcee's wheels roll evenly, and she balances easily on her kickstand. Arcee has a transformation difficulty of 2, intermediate. Honestly, I'd give her a 1.5, as she's one I had less of a hard time figuring out, for a change. Robot mode is where this Arcee really shines. Motorcycles are often sleeker and sexier vehicles than cars or trucks, and this idea very well applies to her bot form. Arcee has a nice toon-accurate head sculpt, with blue light piping for her eyes. Also, like on the show, she has a slender and feminine build, most notably at her torso. Arcee is mobile at 14 points, which allows for a pretty good bit of posing options. Even though she has a lot of back kibble, Arcee's legs are strong and workable enough to compensate for it, and easily maintain her balance. Now here's where the review is going to take a slightly different turn than most of mine. As many may know, last year the First Edition Arcee was my personal #1 toy of the year. So of course this new Robots in Disguise version is going to undergo lots of comparisons to the First Edition one. So let's see how this Arcee holds up to her earlier incarnation, and if 2011's Queen of the Toy Mountain will be topped. Robots in Disguise Arcee's shade of blue is closer to that of her cartoon counterpart. Also show accurate is her solid piece torso without split headlights for breasts, her uncovered shoulders, and thank goodness her colored forearms, all of which look fabulous and are definite improvements. Now don't get me wrong, they're both absolutely gorgeous to me, but facially I think First Edition Arcee has the new one beat. Yes, Robots in Disguise Arcee has the red mark in the center of her forehead, but her paint looks much flatter than First Edition Arcee. There's less depth in the eyes and mouth, and she's missing the metallic pink, which I'm personally a fan of. And it's not just on the face either. Robots in Disguise Arcee doesn't have any of the pink detailing that she does on the cartoon, while First Edition Arcee at least has a little. Robots in Disguise Arcee gives up 2 articulation points to First Edition Arcee. She no longer has either bicep swivel. However, through use of ball joints rather than swivels at her shoulders and elbows, Robots in Disguise Arcee can actually still get all the same posing options. Another noteworthy difference is that while First Edition Arcee has a waist swivel, Robots in Disguise Arcee has kind of a de facto ab crunch. For weaponry, Robots in Disguise Arcee comes with a large rifle and blade. The blade is the same style as the two forearm blades that First Edition Arcee came with, only smaller and silver. It can be wielded, attached to her forearm, or attached to her rifle as a bayonet. Her hands are perfectly shaped for her to be able to hold and aim her rifle as if she transformed her hand into it. If I had my druthers, Robots in Disguise Arcee would have come with a second blade, as the double forearm blades are one of my favorite factors of First Edition Arcee. Not only are they cool looking weapons, but they're more subtly attached to her in motorcycle mode, while Robots in Disguise Arcee has a giant rifle sticking out of her wheel. Again, two blades would have been cooler here, as the rifle is just aesthetically unpleasing to me. Now that we're on motorcycle mode, there aren't a whole lot of major differences between the two Arcees other than colors. You can still have some 3 3/4 inch figures right atop her, provided their leg positioning allows for it. It's also kind of funny that in motorcycle mode, the two are near identical in size, but in robot mode, First Edition Arcee is a good bit taller than Robots in Disguise Arcee, not factoring in back kibble. This height makes Robots in Disguise Arcee more in correct scale with the other Autobots from the line. So there you have some info on each Arcee to base your decision on if you're only planning on buying one of them. Whichever version one chooses, it's all your own opinion to form. Robots in Disguise Arcee does have a heck of a lot of merits going for her, many of which are actual improvements upon the first edition. However, my favorite toy of 2011 has not quite been topped. It's kind of weird, now that I have an Arcee that is in scale with her contemporaries, I don't care that First Edition Arcee is not. As mentioned, her blue isn't as toon accurate as Robots in Disguise Arcee, but not only do I like this darker blue better, I also actively like the metallic pink details. Now, none of this is to say Robots in Disguise Arcee isn't great, because she totally is. She's my favorite Autobot on Transformers Prime, and one of my favorites of the Robots in Disguise Deluxe class toys so far. I definitely still give her a wholehearted recommendation. Stay rad all.